at least one animal that is biologically immortal. Lobsters, biologically they are immortal. They just keep growing and growing and growing.
Hey guys, this is Elijah Vargas from the Gold Soul Podcast. Can you introduce yourself?
Hello, my name is Alexander Patterson. I'm a sophomore at Creighton University. I'm in the College of Nursing, and I'm on the pre-med track, and I'm excited to get this going.
Hell yeah, dude. So we just finished basically our second week of school. How has it been going for you?
It's been going pretty good. No tests so far, so that's good. I don't really expect there to be tests on the second week. That would really
I would
suck.
hope not.
Yeah, I might quit. But no, it's going pretty good. All my classes are good. I actually have a really unique schedule. I have 2 classes on Monday, 5 on Tuesday, 1 on Wednesday, and 4 on Thursday. So it's really weird. It's like a ugly graph or whatever, but it's not that bad.
Yeah.
I like classes when they're back to back because I feel like I can get through them better. But no, yeah, we have a test next week, I think, and that's the only thing I'm really concerned about. But I think it should go pretty good.
Yeah, that doesn't sound too bad at all. I've got like a stats project that I've been pushing off, but it's due like next Friday, and I'm like really not trying to do that because it looks so complicated to me. So I don't know.
No, I get that. I'm not a big stats guy.
Yeah.
I have nursing stats and
Oh, there's nursing stats?
yeah,
What do you look
it's
at for
like
that?
like statistics, but for like a unique medical perspective. Like
Yeah.
we're looking at patients, and basically seeing what they are, their height, gender, all that kind of stuff, so we can better identify how the hospital takes in patients, like the
Yeah.
people that we have in the area, and kind of what they each get. Because it's really interesting to just learn that kind of stuff.
Is it like medications too? This person's on this medication, this person's on that medication, and then like their height, age, weight, and stuff like that.
I think people's names aren't really included because that's like
Okay.
a HIPAA violation,
Yeah.
especially if it's released to the public. But I think there can be ages and heights and weights and races to show what kind of medications people get, what kind of procedures they get too.
Yeah.
But yeah, nothing that's really too descriptive. Like we don't need to say, oh, has a scar on his upper right forehead or whatever, and he has really ugly glasses. We don't need to say that. It's just
That's more like of a cop. Like cops look like that.
yeah. But no, we just look at the things that really matter, and see how that coincides with like trends in our area, but also in other areas too.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because I'm doing statistics for like the social sciences or whatever.
Gotcha.
It's an interesting class because like we're looking at like ethnicities and like jails and like crime as well,
Mhm.
and like all different types of like social statistics.
Yeah,
I guess.
I gotcha.
It's pretty interesting to look at.
That sounds interesting too. Yeah, I really like looking at how kind of things go over time. Like see how things change and
Oh,
see
yeah.
if you can like notice those changes too. Like, can I predict this change using previous data or
Yeah.
whatever? I find that really interesting, but I don't find it interesting to do the work. I just like looking at it.
Yeah, the graphs are interesting to look at. And we've like, it's funny because our professor would be like, look at this graph. Like, it's not, by the time you guys are done with this class, you're going to be making graphs that are like way better than this.
Gotcha.
Because she'll show us graphs that like look horrible. Like,
Like a third grader could make them.
yeah. Like, they'll have like dark blue and like a little less dark blue. And then those would be like 2 colors on a graph. And
That's
it's like,
great.
why would you do that? They both look the same.
That sounds so
And you're
great.
supposed to differentiate between like 2
Show
colors.
contrast. Yeah.
Yeah. And then like we're going through, you can't use like green and red because people are like colorblind and stuff. I'm like, oh, I didn't even think about that.
Yeah.
Normally I'd just probably throw those 2 colors in because they're like opposites, but
Yeah, I feel like that kind of shows like your colorblind thing, that most things are a lot more complex than they really seem.
yeah.
And I find that really interesting to like go into those nuances and see how it's so complex and why it's so.
Yeah, I like that too. I want to dive into your background so people get to know you a little better. I've known you for like maybe like a year.
Some luck with because student preview from
Yeah, we actually met in student preview before our freshman year. over the summer.
Yeah.
We were in like the same group, and I thought that was pretty cool. It was like the first time I met you. And
It
a few
was,
other
yeah.
people.
Yeah.
That whole group, I think, kind of like split up. I don't see like many of them anymore.
I think the only people I really see now are you and James, and that's about
Oh,
it.
James, yeah. I see Megan like every once in a while, and like we had a volleyball player. What's her name? I forgot what her name.
You're right. Yep. I don't remember.
Oh, I feel bad.
I feel bad
Oh,
too.
I feel bad.
I'm not good with names.
Okay.
Like I have to keep that's one thing I'm bad at, names.
Yeah, I'm normally pretty good. I think it was like Destiny or something.
Yeah, it was something like
I
that.
want to
Yeah.
say it was like Destiny.
That sounds really familiar. So I'm gonna go with
But
that.
yeah. Well, anyway, I was saying we were gonna dive into your background, so let's get into that. So where did you grow up?
So I was born in Memphis, Tennessee, back in 2005. But about a year after, I think just less than a year, I moved to La Vista, Nebraska. It's a short town, just 30 minutes west of Omaha, or something like that. Yeah, and it's it's a suburb. So we still got Omaha close by. We got bigger cities, but there's nothing like super big. But then when I was 8, I moved to Papillion, also a suburb of Nebraska, from like 6 minutes from where I just was. And I grew up there, and that's where my permanent address is now. So yeah.
Yeah. Wait, is that the same town that like we went to for the like
Yeah.
the Oak? Dude. So for I was helping to lead Welcome Week, and we did this team bonding excursion, I guess, and it was at this fun park, I guess they call it.
Papio Fun Park, yeah.
Yeah, it was so much fun. My hair got completely messed up, and I was kind of sad.
That'd be fun, yeah.
For the experience, it was fun.
Yeah, all the kids like
Is
to go there.
Is that somewhere that you went to a lot when you were a kid?
Yeah, I went through a lot. I really liked doing stuff like that. There's a lot of school events too, because it was pretty cheap. There was so much stuff to do. There was like arcade games,
Yeah.
laser tag, go-karting, and it was also by like a big park too, by a pool. So it had all the stuff you could go to. It was really convenient.
Yeah.
And it wasn't really far away from anything either. There was a neighborhood right by that. There's another one right in front of. There's so many neighborhoods around that area. It was the perfect area for something like that.
There's also a bowling alley close by, right?
Papio Bowl, yep.
Yeah.
So many memories of being really bad at bowling there. Yeah. I used to be good. I don't know what happened. I guess I got old.
Yeah.
But no, we've gone there for so many things. When I was in cross country, did it for that ROTC. That was ages ago though, but there's so many like events that you go to the same location for that it makes it feel really interconnected, and I just love that about just small towns like that.
Yeah,
Not small
yeah.
towns, but like suburbs.
You guys got like a good thing going over there.
We do. I think actually Papillion was one of the best cities in the United States, I'm pretty sure, at the time.
Whoa.
Back during like the 2010s, might have been like 2015 or whatever. So that was all thanks to me, obviously. No, I'm joking. Sorry about that. No, Papillion is a really nice town. There's a lot of people there. Really nice people too. And it's always going to be my home. I have so many memories doing so much stupid stuff there.
Yeah.
Like one time I was going on a walk with my dad and I got lost in a park. I have no idea how I got lost. There was one trail and I somehow stepped off it or something and I got lost. So that's kind of embarrassing, but now.
How old were you?
Maybe 9, maybe 8.
Yeah.
So right after I moved there, and I was a really shy kid. And so I was like crying or whatever, and I was so scared and terrified, and I had no idea how to get home too. And the funny thing too is like it's not even a mile from our house. Like I can just, it was so close, and but there's so many fun things that happen when you kind of grow up in an area for a really long time that you can't really have if you're moving all the time.
Yeah, I understand that. Like I never went through that personally, but I have friends that like moved around and were like, just because like their parents, you know what I mean?
Military, yeah. My dad's military, so I kind of got that. You know, I've also have a lot of military friends too that've gone through the same stuff, and it's just like I feel so bad for them because they have to lose all their connections the minute they leave, and they have to make new ones too. And it's just not fun. I can't imagine having to make new friends because I'm not the best at socializing, but I can't imagine making new friends like every 4 years.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and then having your dad or mom get deployed too. There's so much stress on that too.
Yeah.
But yeah.
I definitely get that. Looking back at like growing up in your town and like it sounds like you have a lot of fun memories. Do you miss your childhood, would you say?
Yes, I do.
You definitely do?
I miss the innocence and naivety of it all. But no, I really miss my childhood. Not more than any other person, I'd say, but I miss what I could do, you know? I feel like you could do a lot more things, not like bad things, but just like out there. Just
Yeah,
a bit
like
more.
you have less responsibility, so it's like you
Yeah.
have more freedom to kind of do what you want to do.
Yeah, you could watch a documentary, not a documentary, wow. you can play video games or watch a movie the entire day, and no
Yeah.
one would care. But you can't do that anywhere else past that. Because you got responsibilities, and I feel like just everybody just wants to be free of their responsibilities from time to time, and childhood is just such a good way to emulate that. There's nothing to do.
Yeah.
And yeah.
It's funny how like people say that when you're a kid, like the goal is to become like, you know, like an adult, and then when you're an adult, it's like you're almost striving to become a kid again because
Yeah.
you want to have like that free time. You want to get a job, and then like once you get that job, you want to have enough money that you're able to like, you know, like have free time, be able to spend your time how you want to, you know.
Yeah.
It's funny how like it all always comes like full circle like that. It's kind of
Yeah.
like poetic almost.
It is. Like, it feels like you always want what you can't get currently, but you don't really know all that you're getting.
Yeah.
Because like you want a house, but you don't want to pay the taxes on the house.
Yeah.
It's like there's so many things. But me personally, I know that my dad keeps bringing this up every time I talk to him. And I was like 4 years old. I was going to Home Depot, and he says to me, or I say to him, "Hey, Dad, I don't want to grow up." And I found that kind of interesting too, because I've had so many like extremes on kind of like wanting to grow up and wanting to be an adult, but also wanting to have the freedom and like the carefreeness of a kid. Then a few years after that too, probably when I was like 10, I really wanted to be an adult, just to be able to do what I wanted without anybody saying no to, and just to kind of like live my own life. But I was still a kid, so I couldn't do that. And then now I kind of want the same freedom I have as I would have as a kid to do whatever I wanted. So I feel like in my life, what I need to do is just find a perfect balance between what I can do, and what I want to do, and know that I can't have everything, but know that I can still have enough to make me happy and feel successful and accomplished and
Yeah.
like alive, you know?
Yeah. I know exactly what you mean. Because I know, like, as a kid, I would be thinking about, like, my friends, you know, or my parents. Like, if I wanted to go ride my bike, like, 2 blocks over, my parents are like, no, you can't do that. Like, you gotta stay on our block. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So then I was, like, thinking, like, man, I wish I was, like, just, like, a little bit older so I could just, like, you know, bike around these 2 blocks, and it'd be like way
Yeah.
more fun than biking around like this 1 block. It's like 1 circle, you know?
Yeah.
But, you know, like you gotta be careful what you wish for.
Yeah, because you don't want to get like getting some banned by a stranger because they have candy or whatever. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
You gotta be like careful at the same time. But I remember my parents were they didn't really care what I did as long as I was being smart and safe about it. I could go anywhere I wanted, but I usually didn't. So I like staying inside, reading books. I still am pretty much of a nerd, I guess. But I really liked going outside and stuff. I was in the Boy Scouts, and I liked doing stuff with them. Or sorry, Scouts, as I should say now. And I really like just going outside and being with nature. And I feel like I've really recaptured that recently. And yeah, I love what I could do as a kid.
Yeah. I definitely respect that. I feel that as well. Definitely. So moving away from like your childhood, let's like go into like high school age, I guess. So like how did your interests like as a kid change or like evolve into like what they became when you were in high school?
Gotcha. Okay. So, because I was in Scouts,
Yeah.
it has a pretty, not like a really militaristic, but it kind of emphasizes more militaristic discipline and values, I'd say. And so that kind of pushed me into joining ROTC, um, which at the time I really loved doing, but if I had to go back, I would not do that again. But I also feel like it's important that I did that because it gave me my unique change on life. I was pretty much pro-military. I was really big in all that stuff until like my junior year of high school. Then I just realized I just got like a flick, or switch got flipped, and I realized like I really don't want to be hurting people like this, you know. And I feel like I've made that more extreme.
That's a crazy 180.
Yeah.
Like looking at where you are now, that's a crazy 180.
Yeah, like I look at myself now compared to like look at myself in the past, and then always say I like backside kid or like punt him or whatever. And I do something like extreme because there's been a lot of change, but I feel like I'm definitely making it a lot more extreme than it is. But no, there was the military that happened, and I feel like that just became more of a thing because in 8th grade my parents got divorced, and that kind of hit me really hard. And so I just kind of fell into everything. I kind of like stopped doing new things. I had the same friend group for like 3 years after that. I really fell into like the military and just history and all that kind of stuff, kind of to like an obsessive, kind of weird amount. I'm not too proud of it, but I really just missed out because I was afraid of like letting anyone too close because I didn't like to share with them that information at the time, and it just kind of like stopped me from moving forward.
Yeah. So would you say like your obsession was kind of like you were channeling how you were feeling into that like obsession of, I don't say like the military, but like what your interests were at the time, I guess.
Yeah, that's for sure. Because I really didn't have anyone to interact with, like intimate, like in a close level.
Yeah.
I kind of just fell into my own world. I was playing video games a lot more. I was getting into history like a lot more to like the facts where I know more than my teachers. And I look about it now and like say, wow, that's kind of like disrespectful to like to think that you know more than a teacher. But at the time, I really felt like I knew more. I really fell into what I was doing before, and I didn't really move like past it for a long time, and just staggered me and kind of like made me not be able to experience a lot of the things I would have at that time if I hadn't fallen into that.
Yeah. I will say though, like I think what you ended up doing, or like not what you ended up doing, but like what you were doing at the time is definitely like a better outlet than what other kids
For sure, yeah. That's definitely true. I wasn't doing drugs or alcohol or partying or anything like that. I was basically that perfect kid who always listened and never had like a mind of his own, basically. But I was really good at everything I did. I had good grades in school. I was doing really well in ROTC, and if I hadn't quit before my senior year, I would have been. I'm not trying to sound like really arrogant or whatever, but I would have been at the student leader, the commanding officer, as they call it. But yeah, it instilled in me discipline. Kind of started my interests at a basic foundational level, and gave me like my beliefs that I kind of evolved from, I guess, if that makes sense. Yeah, like there's a lot of things I look back to and I can say thank you to having that experience in RTC with, like the discipline I mentioned before, and just like being able to raise my voice correctly to get somebody's attention, and just kind of like the leadership things I can show sometimes. I feel like that all traces back to ROTC and my ability to like kind of think on my feet. But at the same time too, I miss so much stuff. I was a runner in middle school, but then I stopped doing that, and I missed out on like the few best years of my life because I wasn't in cross country or track, and I find that I love doing that stuff now, and I wish I could go back and put myself into cross country and track at a high school level.
Wait, so you didn't run at all in high school?
Not really. It was during my senior year that I ran. Junior year I ran for track, and then senior year I ran for cross country and track. But I didn't really run as a hobby per se. We had to do it for ROTC because you got the PT stuff. Yeah. And I was always really good at that. I had the fastest miles, but we weren't the most athletic group. There was like 5 of us athletic ones, and I was one of them. But I had the really good miles. For that, I had really good mile speeds. I did really good on push-ups and sit-ups, which might be surprising now. Look at how thin I am, and I haven't really done push-ups in a long time, so I can't really hit those levels again. Like I used to be able to do like 50 push-ups, 60 push-ups in one go, and I could not do that now. Like my abs would probably just like fall apart and just like disintegrate.
Yeah. I made the choice not to continue running.
Yeah.
Around like my senior year.
Mm-hmm.
Because I wanted to start a podcast.
That's fair. I mean,
it was very like out of the blue too, because it was like I was explaining this in my last episode with Izzy,
mm-hmm.
and I was like talking about how like I would put things up on like my story saying if I started a podcast, like who would listen.
Yeah. And
stuff like that. And like I had a few other ideas of things that I might do. Like I applied to be like an actor.
That's cool.
I applied for like acting gigs and stuff
mm-hmm.
like that.
Did you get any?
No. I almost got scammed in one.
Oh, that sucks.
Yeah. So I kind of moved out of that, and then I was like thinking about starting a podcast because like every kid our age is like we should start a podcast.
Yeah. And then you're the only one who actually committed to it.
Yeah, and I feel like definitely like in my high school I was the only person that really I don't want to say the only one that started one, but like the only one that
kept doing one.
I would say yeah. And I think and my format is very similar to like how bigger ones are, where you just interview different people you find interesting, and I think that's like what's kept it going, because if it was just me talking or like me and my friend talking, I don't think we would have enough to like even talk about, you know what I mean?
Thank you for finding me interesting.
Yeah, I definitely find you interesting. I had to get you on, like so I would talk to Alexander like I would say not every day, but like almost every other day.
Yeah.
At like lunch or dinner at Brandeis, which is like the dining hall at Creighton, and we'd always like you and your friends, me and like my friends or whatever, like we'd always have like a really deep conversation usually.
Yeah.
And we'd end up sitting there from like 7:30 to like 8:30 almost.
Yeah, I remember that. Or like we had one time, I don't know if you were there the entire time, but we had one time we were there from like 5 to 8 basically.
Yeah.
Just talking about just life and stuff. And just like really more intimate conversations about things we're passionate about and things we want to do.
Yeah.
And
I love that.
Yeah. It was so much fun. Like I love doing it. I'm not very good at small talk. I never want to say how's the weather just to start up conversation.
Oh, nah.
But
nah. Massive red flag.
Yeah. Like, how's the weather? I don't care. I'm just trying to sit.
I don't think, unless the weather's extreme, I don't think I'll ever.
Yeah.
Nah.
No, yeah. No, I love having the more intimate conversations that really get to for you to know a person. To really help you know what makes them tick, what drives that person, and what they want to do with their life, because I feel like that's really important for people to just understand who people are and what they want to do. Because yeah.
And that's kind of what I want to get into here, like right now. So, obviously, like talking to you guys, we all have like something in common, and it's that like we're all going to this school, and we're all sharing the experience of like Brandeis and the food, whatever,
Yeah.
So I want to ask, like, what made you choose Creighton?
So I'm not gonna lie, I did not have the best. I'm not gonna have the best answer for this, but I didn't really know what school I was going to go to. I didn't really think about college at all up until late junior year, early senior year. But then I also really look up to my aunt. She's like the smartest person I know. She's so nice. She's helped me out with so many things, and she went to Creighton, and I really respect her. She's an ophthalmologist. She has great kids. She's just amazing. But she went to Creighton, and I was like, no, I want to be as awesome as my aunt, basically.
Yeah,
I was
I
kind
get
of,
that.
yeah, I guess maybe a bit of jealousy that I want to, like, or like maybe, I don't know what the word is, but like trying to be your perfect self, kind of. I wanted to chase that feeling, and I felt like I could do that by,
Here.
yeah, by,
Yeah. No, I definitely get that.
yeah, but like, even though I don't have the best decision for coming here or like the most informed one, I would not trade this at all. I've made some of my best friends here, like Elijah. I made some of my best friends here.
I appreciate that.
Of course, my pleasure. People I would hop on a grenade for at a minute's notice. And I really feel like I'm a part of the Creighton community now. And I'm really happy about that. I'm not just fake with what I do.
Yeah.
And I enjoy doing that kind of stuff.
Yeah. I love it here too. I feel like everybody's so welcoming and like
Yeah.
you can have like deep conversations like this with basically anyone you see in the mall, basically.
Yeah. We got that Midwest politeness.
Yeah, for real. I know I was having like last year when I was at the gym, I like to go to the sauna after.
Mm-hmm.
And there was one day that I went to the sauna and I just had like a really deep conversation with this one guy that was just sitting next to me, like shirtless or whatever.
That's awesome.
You know, because it's in the sauna, and I forgot what we were talking. It was probably just like politics or.
That's fair.
I don't know what I think. Oh wait, I think it was like around the time that like the Epstein flight logs came out.
Gotcha.
And so we were just talking about that for like. I mean, I had a timer on for like 20 minutes. I think I was in there for like 30.
Jesus.
Because I just kept staying. I was like, yo, I gotta go. But like, it was a fun conversation.
I feel like that was really interesting, just to see not only who was on it.
Yeah.
Like, wasn't there Stephen Hawking on it or something like that?
Yeah.
There were some people
the memes about that were crazy.
Yeah, but it's also really interesting to see how people kind of change their attitudes to those people. Like Stephen Hawking, for example. It was more of a meme because he's obviously passed recently. But it was kind of interesting to see or to think if these people would actually do that for like the more malicious reasons of like the sex offenses and stuff like that, or if they're just there to be there.
Yeah, and it's crazy that like you see the people on the flight log and none of them are like in trouble right now.
Yeah,
like I feel like they should be, but it's also like you don't know if they were actually. There's no proof or evidence that they were actually partaking in any of the wild things that were going on, even though probably most of them were. Like,
yeah,
it's just people that use this plane. Like, it's crazy.
Yeah, I feel like we've forgotten about it so quickly too.
Yeah.
Like this is the first conversation I've had, or even like mentioned on anything that I've seen come up on.
I have not even thought about it in like probably since the beginning of this year. Honestly.
Yeah.
It's so weird. I think I did talk about it a lot in like the episodes around that point. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because we would be like, yo, like, did you see that? This person was on there. I think I saw. Yeah. There were a lot of people that I was like, yo, what the hell? Like,
yeah. There's a.
But nobody can be like convicted because there's no proof. Like
it's just flight
before.
logs. Like I wouldn't, but I could be on a flight log to that place, but it wouldn't mean anything. I could have just like gone there, or there could have been like a rich people party that I wasn't invited to or whatever. So I feel like when it comes to those things, we have to be kind of wary that sure this person may have done this, but at the same time they may have not. So we can't just jump to conclusions. We have to keep a cautious mind, but also we have to understand that not everything has a perfect answer, and not everything we can find a definite, concrete answer to.
Yeah. And that's what freaking sucks, dude.
Yeah,
I hate
it's
that
so
so
annoying.
much.
Yeah.
I hate that so much.
Like when I can't answer something on a test, I freak out. Like
Yeah.
even if I get it incorrect, but even if I, like, I feel like I would know the answer, I just can't. I do everything. I can't figure it out. I hate it so much.
Yeah, it's not even like, it's not even that for me, but like, if I know it's something that I'll never figure out,
Exactly.
I'm hoping that someone will freaking tell me, like,
Yeah.
please, I need that mystery solved, like, now, please. Like,
Yes. Yeah.
because it will bug me, it will completely destroy me.
Like I'll be thinking about it like 3 a.m. It's gonna wake me up.
Yeah.
And that thought in my brain just keep me up. It's like, please, just give me the answer so I can fall asleep.
Yeah, exactly. It's I think the ones that bug me the most is like how the pyramids were built and like stuff like that.
Yeah.
It's just like, oh, I wish I had a time machine.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like,
That'd be awesome. Yeah. I feel like as you're going forward there with that pyramid thing specifically, I know we're getting a lot more evidence, and a lot more better answers as to how we could have. It's definitely not aliens. I'm just gonna say that. If you think it's aliens, cool.
I don't think it's aliens personally.
Yeah. I don't think it's definitely not alien. I feel like if you think it's aliens, then I don't know what to say. It's just that absurd. Like if you think the Earth is flat, that's just kind of like.
Yeah.
Have you looked at photos? Like.
Yeah.
No. I feel like it'd be really interesting to go in the time machine just to see.
I think it's more of like I'm more of a proponent of like there may have been like past civilizations that we kind of like forgot about from like a long time ago.
That'd be interesting.
That have like technologies that were not like, that are forgotten, I guess you would say. Just because if you think about like the prevailing theories that we have now, it's just like, oh, like they had elephants or whatever pulling the massive stones. Like they can't even emulate that now if they tried.
Yeah.
And they've tried moving them with like cranes and whatever, and it doesn't work. But to think that like they had maybe like 100 slaves lifting one stone, I don't think that's possible.
I think there's a lot of ways that it could have happened. I'm not too sure. I'm not really big into Egypt as I used to be.
Yeah.
But I know there was theories tested by people in the STEM field that would just move it using very unique ways.
Oh yeah.
But I also kind of think like that it just shows how much we don't know, how much we really don't know about humanity, and how much of history is lost to us. I'm sure that'd be really nice to find. I mean, there's so many libraries that have been burned. The big one I'm thinking about is the Library of Alexandria. All that knowledge is lost. All that knowledge is lost. And it's just like crazy how much we could know how it would be different now if we knew all that stuff.
And that's what freaking pisses me off.
Yes. Like,
oh, I want to know so
like, why do these
bad.
people have to burn these libraries? Come on.
Yeah,
Jeez.
where does the Stonehenge come from? Like, why is that there?
That's so
What
interesting.
about the freaking Easter Island, those statues?
I think, personally, putting my historian's cap on, I think those more stone primitive monoliths
Yeah.
were kind of like created, I mean, it's maybe a showcase of their religion, kind of, and what they believed would garner sympathy from their gods.
Yeah.
Or whatever. Like, I'm pretty sure that both I think it's the Maui heads and Stonehenge, I might be wrong, so don't quote me on this, but I think those were created at around the same time. So, be interesting if it's definitely not the same for people that could cross like the entire half of the planet. Now that'd be crazy, but it's interesting to see if there's anything else like that across the world, if it's only in those two places. I'm confident that it's in more than just those
More
two
than just
places.
those, yeah.
Yeah, but where else would it be? And is there a reason that we all did these so similarly? And I found that really interesting.
Yeah. And it's the same, dude, like, the fact that there's pyramids all around the world,
Yeah.
and especially, like, the Great Pyramid of Giza, it, like, lines up. What, I forgot, like, the math behind it, but isn't it, like, the coordinates or whatever?
I think
It's lined up with, like, perfect north and, like, perfect, like,
yeah.
it's lined up perfectly.
So I think we underestimate historical people by a great degree. We weren't stupid.
Definitely.
Yeah. I find this overall, there's a difference between being enlightened and being smart. You can be smart in any generation ever, but being enlightened is more of a thing with the times. Like, you got the smartest guy, like Alexander Fleming or Albert Einstein, and they'd be enlightened for their age. They're the smartest people. They're one of the smartest people that we can identify. But if we bring them to this age, they're not very enlightened. They're just smart. And so I feel like that's a very big difference. But even without being as modernly enlightened, I don't know if that's the correct wordage, but I think even without being as enlightened as we are now in the present, that people were still very smart and they can notice things that we still notice now. There's still a great love for math. Heck, there's a math cult in Greece. They worship Pythagoras, like the Pythagorean theorem guy.
Yeah.
They worship Pythagoras as a god. And I think that's just...
They're just not enlightened, I would guess.
Yeah, I mean, they can... It's just so interesting, like how similar we were, how we are, but we're just different because we know if we're gonna, we know to a higher extent if we're gonna be right or wrong in certain things.
Yeah. Yeah, it's so crazy. Like, there's so many, like, mysteries around the world that, like, I guess we're not enlightened because we're missing, like, key information of, like, either how it was built or, like, the origin of, like, the story of, like, why it was built.
Yeah.
But yeah, that, like, as I said before, that's just something that just always just pisses me off. It just makes me so mad.
It's
why can't I just know, like...
Exactly, yeah. Like, if there's one power that I could have, one of the powers that I could have would be, like, omniscience. I think that's where, like,
yeah, omniscience.
all knowing. That'd be so cool, but also so uncomfortable. Like, you would know everything.
Yeah, that's like Minecraft on creative mode.
Yeah, but, like, you see everything that's gonna happen in the future, in the past, because it's all knowing. You know everything. There's not no one thing that you don't know. Everything is basically made out. There's no decisions that are left to be made by people.
That would definitely be uncomfortable.
That would be.
I think the beauty of, like, our existence is that we don't know everything.
And I think it's important that we don't know everything.
You just have to be comfortable, somehow find a way to be comfortable not knowing certain things.
Yeah.
And that's what sucks.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's great that we know a lot of things.
So I think without, like, having these mysteries or whatever, I wouldn't say, like, society wouldn't function, but, like, everyone would have, like, closure. I don't know where I'm going with this, but
You're good.
I don't know where I'm going with that at all.
It's a weird topic to talk about.
Yeah.
But I think mysteries just make up such a big part of our culture, in both good and bad ways.
Yeah.
That if we knew everything, like, everything would be, we'd have to change everything.
Yeah.
Like,
I feel like if I knew the answer to everything, I wouldn't have any motivation to do
exactly.
anything.
Like, what's
I guess that's what I was kind of getting at, because, like, if I knew, like, my reason for existence, why would I keep going to school? Like,
yeah.
Why would I like go to work? Like, if I'm not here to do, like, what I'm doing right now, like, why would I be here?
It's like,
you know what I mean?
Yeah, life is an adventure, and it's not fun if it's spoiled to you. You want to know how to make your own mistakes, how to make your own choices and stuff. And I feel like those mysteries, those big mysteries, allow us to live comfortably, knowing that I may not know everything, but because I don't know everything, I can do so much.
Yeah, and that's definitely true. Kind of moving away from like the mysteries or whatever, I'm probably gonna jump down to like media, movies and TVs, or movies and TV shows. Just cause like I know whenever I've talked to you before, you're always asking like what TV show have you been watching, like
Yeah.
stuff like that. So just want to ask like what TV show or movies have you enjoyed recently?
So I'm a big comic book guy. Particularly, I'm a big Spider-Man fan, so I've been rewatching some of the old Spider-Man cartoons.
Oh yeah.
I think the one in particular is Spectacular Spider-Man with Josh Keaton as Spider-Man, one of the great ones. And I've been really liking that. But I've also liked watching The Boys and Invincible recently. Boys season 3. I guess season 3, right?
You guys, like, if you haven't watched that, you must watch that.
It's brutal. If you're like under 15, don't watch it. You're gonna be scarred for life.
I think I started watching when I was in freshman in high school.
Jesus. Yeah. That's crazy. No, The Boys are great. Invincible's great. Everything on Amazon Prime is great. You got Fallout. You got Reacher, all that kind of stuff.
I was watching Hannah for a little bit. That was a good show too.
It was, yeah. But I also like more like informational stuff. Like I like watching nature documentaries. I feel like I really like animals.
Yeah. Have you seen Alone?
I have not, no.
Alone is good. It's like, I guess it's kind of a similar, it's a similar like theme or like idea as Naked and Afraid. I guess.
Gotcha.
They just kind of drop you off somewhere random, except you're completely alone. And
like a Survivor kind of thing.
Yeah, it's like a Survivor.
Gotcha.
And you can only bring like a certain amount of things, I think.
Gotcha. That's interesting.
And, like, some people bring like, oh, like I need a knife and I need this and I need that, like a tarp. Like everybody brings like a tarp, but like some people don't bring like a knife, and then they have to like make one out of wood or like sharpen rocks and stuff. So it's cool to see like where different what people think is like necessary compared to other people.
Yeah, and I found that really interesting too, because it's kind of a bit off topic, but I really like evolution, and I'm really fond of seeing how humans developed, how other species developed, and if those same things can be replicated today, and to see how it'd be different or whatever. And I like learning about this stuff. Like all the time last year, I was watching this YouTube channel called PBS Eons, and it basically detailed history way like prehistory. There was stuff about the first humans 240,000 years ago, dinosaurs, all that kind of stuff, and they gave like a really cool, informative but interesting view on what our history was, and I really found that interesting.
Yeah, I like that stuff too. Like learning about like the science and all of that. I think, has there been like any like recent I know that I've heard stories of like certain animals evolving recently, you know what I mean?
Yeah, I think one of the big examples of recent evolution, or noticeable evolution, is I don't remember the exact name, but it was the birds that Darwin discovered on a certain island. I think it was in the Pacific Ocean. I might be wrong.
Yeah.
Finch. I think it was a finch.
I was gonna say, isn't it finch?
It was like Darwin's finches, and he discovered how they evolved from either a bigger landmass or a nearby island, and see how they evolved to become more competitive in their new environment. And I find that really interesting to show or to see how these changes happen, to understand why we are the way like we are, and to see why dogs go with us, to see how dogs came from wolves to came from little chihuahuas.
Yeah.
I find that really interesting.
It's crazy because like with dogs we can like selective breed them to have certain traits. And when you think about that, it's kind of crazy. I wonder if like, because you think Oh man, that is such a weird thing to say. I should not say that. I should definitely not say that.
I won't pressure. I won't
Yeah.
ask them.
Okay.
And I feel like there's a lot of interesting things that evolution can teach us about ourselves, but also the world around us, and see how we can help it and how it's important to
Yeah.
us.
I guess the best way of approaching what I was about to say would be like how when like two Olympians have a kid and that kid ends up being like an Olympian. Like I mean, it's I guess that's like a similar kind of thing.
I know that there's been I'm not sure if this is true. This is just some shit posting, but I've heard tell of China doing kind of like that kind of thing. Rather the best people breed together to get like the best people.
Yeah.
But that's not always how it works.
I heard that they did something like that with like Yao Ming, and that's one of the reasons why he was like.
I'm not sure about that.
I'm not entirely sure, but I did hear
That'd be crazy.
specifically with Yao Ming. That was one of the reasons, because like most Chinese people are not normally like that tall or whatever. So.
Yeah, but there's also genetic flukes too, like mutations or what allow us.
Oh yeah.
Like those finches wouldn't have survived or been there if they wouldn't have been able to mutate.
Yeah.
So mutations are weird, sometimes inexplicable in a base sense, but also very important, and we can't dismiss them. Mutations are important. You have to understand that.
Let's just like let's go into like history, I guess, because I guess we're talking about evolution and like Darwin and whatever. So I think the next thing that we could talk about is like history. I know that you're a pretty big history buff.
Yeah.
So what would you say is like your favorite historical movie?
Historical movie would probably have to be, I think the ones that come to mind are 1917 and Hacksaw Ridge. I was really into the more World War I, World War II periods.
Yeah.
I
think that's definitely a common answer.
Yeah, about like 5 years ago. That's the most common answer, that's for sure. But I was really into those. I feel like it's a really great stepping off point, those periods, for any people that like history. But I also feel like it's really interesting to write movies about too, because some of those people are still alive, so we can still kind of get more of a historical understanding of how those things happened and how they affected those in it.
Yeah. Yeah, that's wild though. Because then like some of them are not alive, and then some of them are alive.
Yeah.
It's crazy to think about like watching a movie. Like you're watching a movie someone played in, but they're not alive anymore. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I feel like it's kind of weird, but at the same time, it's good that they have like some kind of memory that can be actively seen.
Yeah.
Like,
I definitely think that. Yeah, I agree with that. I think like if you're that person's son or like whoever, like now you have like this everlasting memory of them, because they're always going to be in this movie or they're always going to be in this video.
Yeah, I think that really shows. I think one example that I'm thinking of right now is Chadwick Boseman.
Oh yeah,
he died at
perfect example.
42, I'm pretty sure. He had colon cancer for 3 years before that.
I feel like that hit a lot of people so hard, because I mean,
he didn't.
I wasn't aware. He didn't tell
Yeah.
anyone, right?
He told like his closest friends and that, and it just like that, and that just shows how life is so fragile and so important. Gotta make sure you live it. You're not afraid to do anything, because you never know. That might be the last thing you do or don't do. So.
So I mean, you already said like your favorite time period in history. So, what would you say is like your favorite historical fact? Just thinking about like, I guess all the history you've learned.
There's a lot of historical facts I've learned. I think one of my favorites right now, like periods I like to go into, is like the Middle Ages. That's like my favorite one right now. And so I'd have to say that my favorite historical fact from that period is the dangers of inbreeding. Look at those hats. I think Charles II comes to mind. A long ass chin. This guy had every disease known to man. Basically, he was living on borrowed time since the moment he came out of the womb, and that guy was so fucked up in so many ways. And it just interesting to show how people really want to contain power, that they're gonna make sure that nobody always gets a slice of the cake by eating the cake, throwing it up, and then eating the cake again. Like that sounds
that's a pretty accurate description, though.
Sounds so delicious.
Yeah.
My tummy is super happy now.
That's crazy. But yeah, that's exactly what they were doing back then.
So crazy.
Isn't it like the same with like Egyptians too?
Yeah.
Like, wasn't it King Tut was like?
Yeah, he was really inbred. And another historical fact: Cleopatra was not white, or was not black. Sorry. The Ptolemaids, the dynasty that Cleopatra belonged to, was insanely inbred. And everybody that had any ounce of knowledge about history and basically wasn't a complete moron, knew that if the Ptolemaids, or the Ptolemies, if the Ptolemies were so inbred, how could they have a black baby from a Macedonian or Greek heritage? Sure, she wouldn't have been white as, say, someone from Norway, but she would have been somewhere close to like the Mediterranean people, because that's where their color was. But in no regards was she black. And even in most states, Egypt and the upper African areas weren't black as we see them today. They weren't like pitch black as their color. They were, I know it's kind of wild to say, but they weren't. They had a lot more influence. They came from all over, especially from those fertile areas up north, like the Nile, that had so many people come in. You had Levantine people from modern day Syria, Lebanon, Jerusalem come in. You had Italians, Grecos or Greeks, Gauls, Hispanic, people from Spain. You had so many people come in. And heck, one of the greatest African powers, Carthage, was started by Phoenicians. And where's Phoenicia? In the Middle East. In the Middle East are not black. They're not. And so to think that every African at that time was black is stupid.
Yeah, so like especially North Africa was very mixed, you would say?
I wouldn't say very mixed. They were definitely black, but not like black. They weren't pitch black.
But there were other people around.
Yeah. And there wasn't a one color of black. There was, especially towards the end of the from like BCE to AD or BC to CE.
Yeah.
They were not. Sorry about that. They were so mixed. You had the Italians and everything. In fact, you had the Roman Empire, the biggest empire at that time. Biggest empire at that time. Had places all over. And to think that they would not interbreed with any of the local cultures, is so stupid. Everybody interbreeds. That's how we have genetic diversity. Heck, I'm mixed. My dad's mixed like me, but he's black, white, and Asian. My mom's just white, and I'm mixed. It's crazy to think that people can't mix. And it's also crazy to have opinions about somebody, preconceived opinions of someone because they're of a different race. And I think that's really stupid. And why I think that Cleopatra serves like a really bad example, because it makes her seem like Cleopatra was this perfect black queen, when no, she was queen. She was a lighter skinned Mediterranean Egyptian pharaoh, who was really impressive, super smart. She was a great stateswoman, and she was really great at all that stuff, but she was not black. And there's so many other interesting, great people that are actually black people that we can draw influence from. And one of the first ones that came to mind when I heard that news back 2 years ago was Mansa Musa.
Oh, yeah.
That guy destroyed the Egyptian economy at the time because he went through Cairo and he gave out so much money.
Everyone.
Exactly.
Everywhere he went, because he was just handing out gold bars.
What kind of person would show how great black people can be, or inspiration to what black people can be, than having a great ruler who's also who's probably like the richest guy in history. There's so many other great.
Bro, someone's got to go out there and make a Mansa Musa at it, bro.
That would be interesting. I don't think there's any video clips of him.
There's got to be. Someone make some. Has to make a Mansa Musa at it, because that would be so sick, dude.
That'd be so cool.
I remember learning about him in like my AP World History, and it's like, yo, this guy, he like one of the main reasons that people wanted to like colonize Africa, especially for like the salt and the gold, because he got rich off salt, right?
I think so.
Rich off salt and gold.
I think so. I might be wrong. I think so for both those questions, because that guy had such a great influence on. Because Egypt is a very important trade center. You got the Mediterranean all around. You got influence from Christian and Muslim powers. So there is definitely some tell of some rich African king who bankrupted every economy that he came past because he had so much money.
And plus, it was part of his Hajj, right, when he was going to Mecca?
He took the Hajj to Mecca. And he gave out so much money because that's what's his way being a good pilgrim, being a good Muslim by giving money to those in need. I think that's one of the core Islamic. I don't know the exact name of them.
It's one of the pillars, right?
Pillars of Islam. I'm pretty sure giving money to those in need or something. I'm not Islamic. I don't have any idea about that stuff, but I'm pretty sure that is one of them.
Yeah, that was another one of the things that I remember learning. I would say I wanted to bring up like one of my favorite historical facts. I remember seeing this like on a podcast. They were talking about how. Have you heard of Benjamin Franklin's basement?
Not yet.
Okay.
I'm excited to learn about it.
So I guess, I don't know how recent it was, but they found like bones of several people.
Oh yeah, I know. I know
you heard about that? Yeah.
Very. I didn't get much into it. You probably have a lot more information about that than I do, but I remember hearing about that.
Yeah. So they have like there's a theory going on like right now that he could have been a serial killer in like the late 1700s.
Yeah.
So I think that's a wild.
I'm not too sure about that. I think there would have been some claims or some at least investigations at the time into why is like 1% of our population, like 1% isn't that big, but it's big enough to notice. I think there would have definitely been some people. Yeah. But at the same time, he was powerful enough. Had enough influence. He definitely was. Just swept it under the rug. But I think personally, more realistically, is that he was a man of science, and that doing
those were like cadavers or something.
Yeah, and at the time, I'm not sure. Not so much as it used to be like 500 years prior, but at the time, looking at bodies, kind of like taking them apart was very frowned upon, and very un-Christian. And so he wanted to be safe, maybe, and then he did it that way. But I'm not too sure. But it would be that's a mystery.
I wonder. Yeah, I wonder about that.
Yeah.
That's such an. I didn't even think about it like in that scientific, like it could be cadavers kind of.
Yeah.
Like way.
From the good effect that Ben Franklin has had on everything, I don't think he'd be a serial killer. And if he would, that shows the duality of man better than anything else, I think.
That's so crazy.
It is.
Another thing that I thought was crazy was the fact that so many of our, I wouldn't say so many, but a few of our founding fathers were around our age.
Yeah.
A few of them were 18, 19,
yeah.
20, 21. And I think that's crazy because they started a whole new country.
It did, yeah. I think how we think of every important person throughout history is that they were old. And sure, they might have been old-ish for their time because 40 was a mortality rate back ages ago. I think back 1800s, that might have been the average age of death. Yeah, these people are old. It says that James Monroe, 18, Burr was 20, Hamilton was 21, 25 for Madison, Jefferson was 33. Yeah, a lot of these guys
The
are.
oldest person was Ben Franklin.
It's 70.
Yeah, so this is as of 1776, so they were all, well, James Monroe, 18. Like you said, like everybody was not.
Yeah, they were
Like
in
you
the,
think because our country's being run by so many like old people right now that
Yeah.
they're like old, but like at least around Benjamin Franklin age.
I think that can show too, just how important the younger people.
They were actually like involved. It's crazy.
Yeah, and I think that if they can be as involved in politics and about caring for their future as they were 250 years ago, that we can be that way too.
Yeah. Going off of that, I've heard a lot of people say this, but do you think that like this upcoming election is probably like the most important one?
Yes. It is definitely going to be one of the most important that we've had. Because it's just two very, very distinct candidates. We have on one side someone who is a convicted felon and who has most of his Republican Party going against him and has just done some things that I personally don't agree with. And on the other side, we have somebody that is a prosecutor and that has spent her life in politics, whereas the other has spent their life in business. And on the end of someone who was recently there but left because he had worms in his brain, RFK, that's fucking crazy. Worms in your brain makes a lot of sense actually for that candidate. But this is definitely going to be the most impactful, one of the most impactful elections we're going to have. Not just for a political standpoint, but also for an economical standpoint, because we're at a very unique economic crossroads. Because we're coming off of COVID, we're getting our economy back up, and we're going to decide what direction we're going to head in with that. But also, a more global perspective. We got the war in Ukraine going on. We got the Israel-Palestine thing going on. We got tensions are so high right now that it's going to be important if the USA is going to play a role in that and how big that role is going to be. And so it's definitely going to be big. I don't think anyone can disagree with that.
Yeah. It's crazy. Like I honestly wish we had different candidates. It's crazy. Like I just I try not to get too political on the podcast.
Yeah.
But it was definitely interesting to like hear your point of view with all of that.
Yeah, I will say that I am more left than most people, especially at Creighton. But I am more left, and I just find it really interesting, kind of the demographics, even just of their the characteristics that the candidates are. On one end, we have a really young. Mix, I'm pretty sure she's mixed, I'm not too sure, but she's at least black, woman going for presidency. And on the other end, we have a 70-something, I might be wrong, 70, 60, some year old white guy going in. And I think it's really telling to see like the two sides of our country. Do we want to be more traditionalistic, more conservative in our opinions, or do we want to be more I have no idea what I said for that first word, but are we going to be more progressive and kind of looking to change our own future as opposed to staying on the same course? And I think these political opponents do a great job of emulating what
they like embody.
Yeah, what the people of America are facing right now.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know if do you want to cover climate change or do you want to move on to like something else?
We can cover climate change if you want.
Okay, we could do it like briefly. So would you agree that like climate change is like a serious issue that like politicians should definitely take seriously?
Yes. We're dying. Not just the world, but we as humans are going to be dying from climate change. We rely so much upon our ecosystem that if enough trees go down, we can't breathe and we're dead. We're destroying our planet. There's so much, sure, we're picking it up, but we're destroying it faster than we can pick it up. There's so much trash in the oceans. There's so much pollution in the sky. Our trees are on fire. California and Australia are constantly on fire. Venice is sinking. The glaciers are melting. There's so many things going on that have such important repercussions on not only us as someone living in the Midwest, away from most climate things, but also as just a global perspective. We need to rely upon each other as a human species to be better, to do better for our planet. So many things are dying for no reason because we're too caught up in making the most money and screwing the most things off and thinking that we're the best things on the planet. Sure, we may be the smartest, we may be the most advanced, but we're not. I'm not sure if we're really the best. We do so many bad things. Sure, so many great things too, but just to acknowledge every other species as they're beneath us is stupid. We're all here. Everything had to go through millions upon millions upon millions of years of evolution and just shit just to get where we are now. And just to throw that away because we can't stop flying in fucking private planes every year or every time we want to go to fucking Walmart that's 5 minutes away, or from not even small things like recycling. There's so many people that don't know how to do that, and it's killing our planet. We need to care about our planet and what's in it, because without it, we have nowhere that we can go.
Yeah. And I want to highlight something that I think we're doing right, and hopefully it'll bring some more conversation going. Mm-hmm. So I think current advances and advances we made in the past in the field of medicine. I know you as someone that's trying to be a nurse.
Yeah.
You could definitely agree, but what are some advances or medical advances that interest you?
One thing that really interests me, but I'm not sure just how I think about it yet, is the CRISPR gene editing thing and the ability to alter somebody's genes to get rid of new diseases or make super people, basically. And I'm not sure how I feel about this, but there's so many things. We could wipe out sickle cell anemia or anemia, one of the two. We could wipe that out and save so many people. We can make people live longer through genetic editing. We can make people more beautiful, attractive through genetic editing. But we're kind of playing God at that same time.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I was just thinking that.
Should there be a limit to what we can and can't do? And if so, what can we do?
I think it's more of should and shouldn't.
I agree.
Because, just like when we were talking about earlier, Minecraft on creative mode, it's not fun if you're just if you can do everything, if you know everything, if you're making people, like you said, beautiful, where's the fun in that? I think the beauty's in the imperfections, you know?
Exactly, yeah.
And if a person's if they're not the best athlete, they might be better in other things, you know?
Yeah.
It's you're making people specifically for this. What if they don't want to do that when they finally grow up?
Exactly. And a question that just came to mind is, those are the risks of being alive.
Yeah.
We know that we can't all be Ryan Reynolds or Hugh Jackman. There's a risk we could be Danny DeVito, I guess. There's so many things that we can do that we can't change. But so many people have made their shortcomings, their growth, their characteristics, what they use to become who they are, and if we just acknowledge what our weaknesses, how our weaknesses can be our strengths, then we're just throwing away what it means to be human, to go past what we can't do and move forward with what we can do.
Yeah, I definitely agree. So you're talking about this gene editing and all of that. As far as medicine, do you think there would ever be a point with medicine that we could become immortal?
So
or where we just can't die.
I think that's interesting because there's a lot of, I don't know if there's a lot of, but there's definitely at least one animal that is biologically immortal, and that's lobsters. Biologically, they are immortal. They just keep growing and growing and growing. But they die through diseases, human interaction, animal interaction, yada yada yada. It's life. People think things die. Not all of it's natural. But
Without all of that, it would just live forever.
yeah.
That's crazy.
So I guess if we could find some way to not give ourselves some weird characteristics, we could find some way. I'm not even sure. I'm not a geneticist. I think it'd be cool to study that, but I'm not a geneticist. I'm not. Don't quote me on this, as many things. But I think it'd be interesting to see if we can copy part of the genes that make the lobster immortal and transfer into our own genome, so we can also be immortal. But at the same time,
You might not want that. Yeah.
yeah, like
I think like we'd still die from like car
Yeah.
accidents and like probably some diseases as well,
yeah,
like cancer. I mean, we still haven't. I mean, they've said that like there's certain things that can help with. I mean, can save you from cancer, but I don't know like if there's any like mainstream like cure. You know, there definitely isn't.
because cancer's so unique. There's so many different types, so many
Yeah,
different causes
exactly.
of cancer. It's really hard, like anything, to find one solution to many problems.
So yeah, like things like that, Alzheimer's. I mean, you're probably still gonna die, but like if you, I guess if you stay healthy,
Yeah,
you could probably live forever, which
Well,
is
I-
crazy. That's a long time.
yeah, but I don't know if I'd want to live forever.
That's a bit much. So, I want to wrap it up with like, I guess any advice you'd have for people listening to this episode, whether it's like life advice or whatever you got for the people that are listening.
Yeah, keep being better. Understand that you have weaknesses, that you have failings, that you have shortcomings, that it's going to be impossible, if not very hard to overcome. But those make us human. We have to be human to be who we are. Our weaknesses are what makes us so special, and we have to embrace those. Don't be afraid of who you are, of who you want to be, especially if that someone is someone that has no negative impact on others. There's nothing wrong with being weird. We're all weird. Heck, I'm sure weird. I like doing weird things. And it's okay. Embrace that. Embrace who you are. Become your own individual and become better out of it. Thank you.
Yeah, I definitely agree. I think a lot of people get afraid of like criticism or like being judged and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Even if it isn't verbal, people are just afraid, or they're just like afraid of themselves. Like, what if I do this and I don't like it?
Yeah.
Then they won't even pursue it if they, like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But if people are just like more open to trying new things and exploring different avenues of like different things that they can do,
Yeah.
I think it's definitely better than just sitting back and being like, you know, I'm happy with what I got.
We can't change. We can't get better. We can't move forward if we sit on our asses all day and do nothing.
It's true.
Get up, do something. Heck, you can do it on your ass, but do something. Do something that helps you, that helps others. Excuse me. Just do something, you know?
Yeah.
We have to, if we don't like the way we're living, we gotta make change. And change takes effort. No, I don't know many people who are gonna be handed a box full of everything that's gonna make them to the person they wanna be. And so we have to make our own box and make the items ourselves so we can be that change, be that better person.
I definitely agree. So I'm gonna do a quick summary of like what we went over today.
Yeah.
You started, you know, talking about how your year is going and like what it's been like with like classes and whatever, like assignments you got. Then we went into talking about like your childhood and like all the fun memories living in your town and like, you know, things you like to do. And then we moved into high school. You're talking about like ROTC, and then like going through like the hard times with your family, and then finding different ways, like your different ways that you coped, and then like moving out of high school, like the reasons that you chose Creighton, and then you looked up to your aunt.
Yeah.
You kind of wanted to be like her, and you wanted to be the best version of yourself. So you chose Creighton, and you thought that like Creighton would definitely get you there. And then, we jumped into like a deep conversation. I don't know how it started, but from then on, I mean, we were talking about like mysteries of the universe, basically.
Yeah.
And then talking about like the pyramids, Stonehenge, all of that. And then, I mean, eventually we brought it back to like movies and TV, history, and then we went into like more current events, I guess.
Yeah.
And then like the election, and then I guess we finished with like climate change and medicine.
Yeah, science stuff.
Yeah, so that stuff, I think it's always fun to like talk about how I like looking at the future and thinking about like what could be possible, and that's always like something that's interesting.
I agree. Yeah.
So I think with this episode, especially with our deeper conversations, people will definitely be like, it's thought-provoking, like the different things that we were talking about, and we will definitely learn a thing or two about like whether it's like history or like everything you talked about. So I want to thank you for getting on, man.
Of course, thank you. Thanks for that was a really rude. Should we try that?
Yeah, it was just normal handshake.
Yeah.
I got used to dab ups.
Yeah, the length is I got too long already. Just my excuse.
It's all good.
Yeah. No, thanks for having me on.
No problem.
And thank you.
Thank you guys for listening to this episode of the Goal Swell Podcast. If you guys enjoyed this episode, make sure to drop a like. And if you plan on listening to any future episodes, make sure to subscribe and click that notification button.